The final of this tournament is being held just outside of Santiago, Chile, and here with the call of today's match, Nigel Reid and Jason DeVos.
Thank you, Brenda. A very good afternoon to you as the irresistible force meets the immovable object. The free-scoring North Koreans taking on the defensively solid Americans with the 4th Women's U20 World Cup on the line. Team news: North Korea make one change to the team which beat France in the semi-finals. Sin Sol Ryon returning at left back after suspension, replacing 16-year-old Yoon Song-mi. USA head coach Tony DeSico names the same 11 that accounted for Germany in the last 4 by a single goal on Thursday. So Canadian-born Sydney Leroux will again lead the line for the Americans. The weather: it's a beautiful evening in Santiago. The temperature in the mid-20s, just approaching 6:30 local time. The Americans all in white, the holders of the trophy all in red, and our referee is Slovakian-born Alexandra Iringova, representing England. She is fluent in 5 languages. North Korea won this trophy by a 5-goal margin 2 years ago in Russia. We will pick from right to left in this first half. Maybe also worth mentioning at this early stage that we are playing on field turf, an artificial surface, not on natural grass. This is indeed the venue at which Canada played its first 2 matches of the competition. The Americans ranked number 1 in women's soccer by FIFA. The North Koreans number 5. On that right-hand side, Alex Morgan for the USA. Behind for a goal kick.
It's a little bit of sloppy defensive play from the North Koreans. The Americans, as we said before, have a very solid defensive record in this tournament, only conceding those 2 goals against China. North Korea, on the other hand, have conceded 7 goals in their games in this tournament thus far, although they've scored 14 themselves. So the Americans will fancy their chances of breaching that back line.
Interesting point you make there. And Alyssa Neha, the American goalkeeper, has played in 4 of the 5 matches that the US have played in and hasn't yet conceded a goal in this tournament. So that's a record she will want to maintain. Ellie Reid plays right back. She is number 6 for the United States. And the USA program has been so strong for so long in the women's game, but we've seen over the last 2, 3, 4 years that the Asian teams, the Koreans, the Chinese, the Japanese are fast emerging as a force in the women's game and the game internationally.
They certainly are. There's no question of that. Their results bear fruit, and you can see from the under-17 women's team, the North Koreans winning that final against the Americans. And we also saw in Canada's group game against Japan. The Japanese, I thought, were excellent in that game. Beat Germany as well, another very, very strong women's team in world football. So the Asians are certainly taking a lot of strides forward in not just women's football, but in men's football as well.
The opportunity. Right behind it was Elisa Meyer. First shot of the game on target from Cho Eun-ju. Nikki Washington, who's been so dangerous on the right-hand side for the United States throughout this tournament, often linking up and setting up goals. She wears number 16, plays principally down the right flank. Becky Edwards there, number 8. And at the heart of the defence is Nikki Marshall alongside Lauren Fouts. Here's Edwards, who operates in that central midfield alongside the captain, Keelan Winters. Edwards looking for Morgan on that far side of the field. This is Winters, the captain, finds Washington. Rather telegraph the pass. Neha had to be alert because of the run forward. Principally, we've seen from the Koreans the form in this tournament of number 7 here, Ri Jin-jong, who has 4 goals in the tournament and is the joint leading scorer with the American Sydney Leroux. More about her in a little while. She thought she had 5 goals, but what she thought was her winner in the semi-final against Germany, which stood for around 24 hours, was later officially changed by FIFA to an own goal. So one chalked off, but it made a difference, of course, to the result. And it was the Americans against North Korea in this gold medal match. Washington has pace, likes to whip the ball in early. On this occasion, just off target. Cho Kwang-sok is a vastly experienced coach. Was the AFC Coach of the Year a couple of years ago when he led the North Koreans to that triumph in Russia. And also to the AFC Under-19 Championship in 2007, from which this roster is principally composed. Marshall was in quickly. And on that far side, Megan Klingenberg. It's a quiet enough opening, as we say. That's given away momentarily. Washington comes to collect. Reed will have to be quick, but can't keep it in. Back from suspension, Sun Sol-yuan. Inviting into the area. Not too far away from Ri Jong-sim.
This is a well-rehearsed set piece from the Koreans. The throw-in just lobbed across the 6-yard box. And Sim does well to get ahead on that. Good positioning, but can't direct her header on target.
As if they needed one, an early warning for the Americans. As Ri pumps the ball forward again. Following it up is Cho Eun-ju. Technically adept. They break quickly, right across the face of goal. All the way out for a goal kick in the end. But certainly the North Koreans have come with confidence and a game plan.
Well, when you score 14 goals over a tournament's course like they have coming into the final, you're going to be full of confidence. And you can see why. They get the ball forward quickly, deliver the ball into good areas in the 18-yard box. Always looking to get on the end of things, and their midfielders commit themselves forward as well, always looking to score goals.
Straight out of play by Neha. So a chance for the red-shirted Koreans to come forward again. Sykes with a chance to clear, helped out by Marshall. Washington will win the throw for the United States. Set up the goal, Washington in the semi-final. Did that go out of play? The referee's whistle signals that it did. One or two nervous first touches in this opening 10 minutes, which I suppose is understandable.
You'd expect that as well, you know. In a match of this importance for these young ladies, you know, they're very well aware that they'll be world champions if they win this game. And And that's something they've worked very, very long and hard for. So you never want to make a mistake in the early stages of a game like that. That could come back to haunt you in the end.
The Americans, of course, champions of this tournament in its inaugural year, when it was an under-19 World Cup in 2002. A few Canadian fans will forget that particular occasion. Semi-finalists for the last two editions in Thailand in 2004 and Russia in 2006, and back in the final for 2008. Edwards trying to make some room as Nairn knocks it forward left-footed. Check for Christine Nairn. She wears number 11. She tends to take a lot of the corners as well. Should be the goalkeepers, and is. Approaching the 10-minute mark in Santiago. No score in the final of the Women's U20 World Cup. North Korea, the defending champions. Klingenberg with the throw. And you can check out cbcsports.ca/soccer for the latest on the road to South Africa, all the matchups and the inside stories of qualifying for World Cup 2010 in South Africa. Right at your fingertips, so log on now while you enjoy the game with us. Bang forward by Huang. Ryan Sim. Quickly forward again. Reed made the interception, found Edwards. Klingenberg will keep it in on that far side. Looking for the run of Sydney Leroux, who gives chase. Tries to keep it in. Takes a chunk out of the corner flag as well. Sydney Leroux has represented two countries in this tournament. As a 14-year-old in 2004, she represented Canada.
Yes, and Canadian soccer fans will be disappointed to see her wearing that American jersey today when she could very well be playing for Canada at this point in time. She's not the first Canadian-born player to represent another country, and I'm sure she won't be the last, but it still stings a little bit when you see a possible Canadian representing someone else.
Certainly made the most of her opportunity in this tournament. As I mentioned, joint top scorer with 4 goals. And momentarily it was 5 before that winner in the semi-final was officially credited to Bianca Schmidt of Germany as an own goal. But Canadian born and bred from Surrey, British Columbia, now living in Phoenix, Arizona, and has just begun her college career at UCLA. Here's Ellie Reed, battling hard for possession. She'll get some help from Fowkes. Maya has had the only shot on goal to deal with so far. Cage opening from both sides. Washington half controlled it, but concedes the throw to the North Koreans, who, as I've mentioned, are the holders of this competition. And yet, if you go back to 2002 and 2004, they didn't even qualify.
No, it was the 2006 edition was their first appearance at that level, and they go and win the tournament.
Morgan looking for a route through. Sydney Leroux making a nuisance of herself. I think she's won the corner. So it's been a rapid rise by the North Koreans, who have been somewhat secretive and caged in their preparations. They've attended obligatory press conferences in between games, but they haven't really made players available. They've really allowed their action on the field to do the talking for them. Corner to the Americans. Christine Nairn from that far side. Back in again. Leroux is offside. just by, what, 6 inches or so as the ball came back in.
Just a little bit lazy, Sydney Leroux, getting back on side there. Most strikers tend to be. That's why they tell the defenders to push out very quickly.
Spoken like a true centre-half. Morgan, the aggressor. Free kick for the Koreans. Here's what happened. Cha Hunam felt her ankles being taken away. What have the defending champions practiced on the training field that might help them out here? I don't think it was that. Only half away. There comes, and it almost bounced awkwardly for her. She needed to keep her eyes on the ball there. Good distance on the kick from the American goalkeeper. Captain trying to keep things going for the US. It'll be another American throw. Morgan's come all the way over. Has a strong left foot, but also a strong throw as well. Morgan looking for the flick on. The North Koreans come away with ease. Referee didn't like the challenge. And a yellow card. The first of the contest, the first of the final, shown to Alex Morgan, who moments before had taken the throw.
Well, 2 fouls in quick succession by Alex Morgan has resulted in a yellow card. There's not any intent to injure there. It's just desire to get the ball back. A little bit of awkwardness from the left-sided player. She's had a good tournament, actually, for the United States. 3 goals in the opening group stages. Leaves her in second place on team scoring behind Sydney Leroux, the striker.
Seiko, the USA coach, not much you can tell him about women's soccer. Won gold at the 1996 Olympics and was the successful coach of the Women's World Cup team, the Senior World Cup, that is in 1999. But what about the lob there? Well, just for a moment, the American goal was gaping as Raun Sim had an opportunity and couldn't lift it over the goalkeeper.
All she has to do is lift this over the top of Elisa Nair. She tries to hit it with a bit of strength and pace instead.
Credit to Lauren Fouts.
Good defending from the Americans to get back and deny that goal-scoring opportunity.
So a couple of warning shots across the bows of the Americans in this opening 20 minutes. And without Fouts' intervention there, that might have just lobbed over the top of the USA goalkeeper to give the Koreans a lead. As it is, the score sheet remains blank for the moment at least. Quickly forward again, putting the USA defence under pressure, but this time it drifts away for a goal kick. Well, I was reading some pre-match thoughts from the Korean players and the coach, and they were pretty positive, as you might expect going into the final. They certainly don't feel underdogs.
No, and they have every right to feel confident. You know, as I said before, when you score 14 goals in a tournament like this, you go into the final in a situation knowing that you were capable of scoring goals, multiple goals in a game. And even though the Americans are considered to be the power in women's football, the North Koreans are certainly the emerging force at all age levels.
As we mentioned off the top of the show, It's only 3 weeks ago since the North Koreans beat the USA in New Zealand in the under-17 version of the Women's World Cup. And if they were to go on and win this game, it would be the first time that a women's team had held World Cups at 2 different age levels in the women's game. So plenty of incentive for the Koreans. Winters initially thought about the shot, but there were too many red shirts. Reed out-muscled. The Koreans keen to get it forward as quickly as they can. Once again, good defending, this time by Nikki Marshall. Spotted the danger early.
Koreans are playing a very direct style today. They're looking to get the ball forward as quickly as possible, trying to utilize the pace that they have up front. They obviously feel that they can use that to their advantage. But good defending there from Nikki Marshall, reading the danger, getting across into space, cutting out that pass, and clearing the danger.
20 minutes gone in Santiago. No score, but advantage North Korea. Washington looked inside for Edwards. Leroux came to try and meet it. The Americans gain a few yards up the touchline. Washington as her captain inside her. Leroux ahead of her. Washington goes down. Referee plays the advantage, but the move breaks down again. Klingenberg battling for possession, wins the free kick against Cha Hunam. Leroux did well on the layoff to Washington. This is Leroux. It's quite noticeable in these opening stages that not only are the North Koreans playing that direct style, but they're not giving the Americans any time to settle.
No, they've done a very good job closing the Americans down. Nikki Washington in particular, who's a danger for the United States on the right-hand side of midfield. She hasn't been given any time and space to get into her rhythm and into the flow of the game. Something that the Koreans obviously have picked up on in the Americans' group games so far.
Thanks to her captain, Winters. Morgan on that far side. Winters again. Morgan, can she get a shot away? She's got a shot on her, by the way. Alex Morgan given the chance, and the opening goal out of absolutely nothing. It's Sydney Leroux, and now she is the tournament's leading scorer, and the US leads 1-0.
Well, just talking about what a good job the Koreans have done defensively. Have a look at the left back at the bottom of your picture. She's 10 yards back behind the other defenders. She plays Sydney Leroux onside. When the ball pops free to Leroux, she has time to turn, get the ball under control, and that's a wonderful finish from the striker. That's why she's the top scorer in the tournament. When you finish like that, you're going to score goals. Sydney Leroux's giving the United States a 1-0 lead.
She once captained Canada's under-15s. She was the youngest ever player in the Vancouver Whitecaps women's history at 15 years and 7 days. And now she has got her name on the scorecard in the most important match of her life. Sydney Leroux from British Columbia has given the Americans a 1-0 lead over the defending champions midway through the first half. The goalkeeper never saw it.
It was a great finish from Leroux. She had very little backlift at all. She hit the ball very quickly on the turn. An excellent finish.
They'll be looking for a second now. Here's Washington with Leroux ahead of her. Made the diagonal run. Leroux, can she turn? Left-footed this time, just wide. Well, she's a live wire.
Goal scorers are funny beings, you know. As soon as that one goes in the back of the net, their confidence just soars and they think they can score from anywhere. And you wouldn't bet against her scoring from there as well. Left-footed. It's a good effort. She doesn't find the target, though. I wouldn't bet against Sydney Leroux scoring another one today, that's for sure.
Well, she is now officially the leading scorer in the tournament. That fifth goal that was chalked off has now been restored. No question of who got the final touch on the opening goal in the final. By Marshall. He must be fairly happy with the way things are going. He is probably not. Now, next Saturday we've got another alpine ski doubleheader from La Molina and Val d'Isère, featuring World Cup giant slaloms. The race beginning 3:25 a.m. Eastern, live on Bold and cbcsports.ca. The men take their first runs at 4:25 in the morning Eastern. Coverage on the full network begins at 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific, December the 13th. No snow in Santiago. But a Canadian success story perhaps is brewing here in the Chilean capital. Winters the captain. There's Washington on this near side. He is bundled over. And wins a free kick for the USA.
Sin Sol Rion doesn't need to go in and challenge here. Nikki Washington doesn't have the ball under control. She's not going anywhere. Just a little bit over-aggressive in the defensive side, giving the Americans an easy free kick.
Well, the Korean left back, as I mentioned at the top of the show, just returning after suspension for this final. She did pick up a couple of yellow cards, so she's picked up something of a reputation. Edwards trying to get the ball forward, but behind for a goal kick.
Well, she certainly won't be happy when she sees that goal on the replay. It was her, Sin Sol Rion, number 16, who was 10 yards behind the other defenders, played Sydney Leroux onside, giving her the time and space to find the top corner and give the United States the lead.
Which they hold, and I suppose the Koreans might say it's something against the run of play. They had a couple of opportunities inside the first 20 minutes or so, but could convert neither. But as all soccer fans know, the only statistic that really counts are the ones that end up in the back of the net.
And you have to give credit to the United States. They've had one chance, scored one goal. You know, the Koreans haven't taken their chances, even though they haven't been clear-cut chances. But the Americans will be very pleased with the efficiency of their strike force.
Washington, early ball in, easily cleared at the expense of another throw for the USA. Morgan was trying to get back. Forward by Huang. Ball first. But Winters, the American captain, certainly felt the challenge and has won the free kick.
Well, it's the follow-through that catches her. And that's why the crowd reacted the way they did. It's just that collision there at the end. I don't think there's any intention to injure from Ri John Sim.
Flick on for Washington. Tamely out for another throw, inviting pressure, the North Koreans. Klingenberg gets us underway again, finds Winters. Kim Eun-ju, never present in the North Korean goal during this tournament, will leave the tournament without keeping a clean sheet. That doesn't mean she will leave without a gold medal. And it's perhaps worth saying at this stage, with the scoreline that it is that on a number of occasions, as Leroux chases down the goalkeeper, that the Koreans have come from behind more than once, including the semi-final.
They have done, you know, and they've scored goals aplenty as well, which is certainly reason for them to be full of confidence, even though they find themselves trailing in this game by a score of 1-0. But the Americans are the #1 ranked team in the world for a reason, and they certainly won't want to go any further behind in this game if they are going to get themselves back in contention.
Morgan wants to get it on her left foot if she can. Right foot is the weaker one, as was demonstrated there. Half an hour gone at the Estadio Municipal in La Florida, just on the outskirts of Santiago, in the final of the Women's U20 World Cup. Sydney Leroux's 23rd minute goal has given the Americans the advantage over the defending champions from North Korea. Klingenberg has time to make a decision. Dangerous player is number 7 for the Koreans, and their top scorer, Ri Jeong, gets the deflection there and out for an American throw. It was Ri's stoppage time winner, with virtually the last kick of the match, that booked the Koreans' passage into the final. She scores them and she makes them as well. Cho. Enough white shirts to clean up. Washington was asking rather too much of Leroux. Easy this time for Marshall. Washington, first time, looking for the give and go with Leroux. If Washington can keep it in, she can, but then overran it with her second touch.
It's a shame, because it's great build-up play from the Americans, great one-touch football. Washington's just starting to come into the game a little bit more now. The Koreans are giving her a little bit more time and space, and she's starting to exert a little bit of influence on the game, linking up well on that occasion with Leroux, but that final touch before she put her cross and let her down, the Koreans with a goal kick.
Nikki Washington has 2 assists in this tournament, has yet to score herself, but that's not principally her job. Winters for the USA. There she is, the captain. Finds Reed. Had to be quick to dispatch it. She'll get the ball back here. It's nicely done. Washington's got a bit of time and options left and right. Reed's continued her run. Can she find a telling ball? It's still in. But Edwards will try and keep the pressure on for the Americans. The idea was the right one, but Washington, for once, wasn't making the run.
Just checking his watch. He'll want to get into halftime preserving this 1-0 lead. He doesn't want to give the Koreans any reason to have encouragement going into the second half.
Washington, the ball ahead for a hopeful Leroux. US throw.
But I think head coach Tony DeSico from the United States will be pleased with his team's effort thus far in the first 35 minutes of the game.
Morgan. Nairn. Possibly left-footed Christine Nairn. Washington bundled over. There was no whistle, and Washington's wondering why. Winters. Nairn again. She might shoot with that left foot. Well, a yard either side, and it might have been 2. 10 minutes to half-time. Sydney Leroux's 23rd minute goal has put the USA in the driving seat against the defending champions from North Korea. That'll run away for a corner. Maybe some hope for him.
Just another look here at that left-footed strike from Christine Nairn. She hits it really well. Excellent connection. And as you say, Nigel, a yard either side, and I think Kim Eun-ju in goal would have had difficulty keeping that one out of the back of the net.
Corners of the Koreans. Hwang on that far side. Into the sun. Heads are up. All still alive. And they get it back into the mix. Ellie Reid trying to make sure they can't. And away she comes. Good run from Reid to take it out of the danger zone.
It's great defending from Reid because she read the situation well. She knew the Koreans couldn't get the ball down quickly. The ball was bouncing and she came in at pace, intercepted the ball, and was off to the races.
Well, look at that possession statistic. That's quite interesting because on the balance of play in the first 15-20 minutes of this game, you'd think it would have been a lot closer.
What the Americans have done really well is they've held on to the ball even when they didn't have a situation to create a goal-scoring opportunity.
Morgan trying to force her way through. And in the end, she was bundled over just outside the penalty area. She might well fancy the resulting free kick, Alex Morgan.
It's good footwork from Morgan. She shifts the ball right, shifts the ball left, back to the right again. Makes it very difficult for the defenders. I always tell young players, attacking players, when you get the ball, run at the defender. Use your pace, use your skill, cause the defender a problem, because no defender in the world likes an attacker that runs at them at pace.
Washington and Leroux, the candidates. 4 in the wall, 5 in the wall for the North Koreans. Will it be Leroux? Or will it be Washington? Leroux hits it straight into the wall, which did its job admirably. No one forward for the Koreans. And the ball's coming back towards them. Header is Edwards. Winters trying to make her way forward, but the American captain is bundled over. And a scene that almost turned into all-in wrestling. The result is an American free kick.
It's just 2 players going for the ball. You know, once it goes down there, they're both scrapping. You could argue that they're both fouling each other.
You could argue that Winters handballed it before anything went wrong. But anyway, Klingenberg will take the resulting free kick for the USA. Washington now on that far side, too near the goalkeeper. 6 minutes to half-time. USA on top by a slender margin. Can they hold it to the half? An unnecessarily hurried clearance. Gives the Koreans perhaps another opportunity. Edwards taking her time. Klingenberg on that far side. To Winters, the captain. Two of them took their eye off the ball. Maybe an opportunity for the Americans that they weren't expecting. And it was an important interception because Leroux was ready to pounce on a mistake. It comes all the way back to Klingenberg, who keeps it in initially and then wins the free kick. And the challenge of Cha. Fuchs. Interesting that Morgan and Washington appear to have changed wings. Ellie Reid did her best to keep it in. So you've now got the predominantly left-footed Morgan operating on the right-hand side, and the predominantly right-footed Washington playing down the left flank for the time being.
Well, what that does is it allows both of those players to cut back and whip the ball in an in-swinging cross rather than an out-swinging cross.
Here comes Morgan, half stop, but Morgan still going, decides with a shot, scores! Oh my word, that's an outstanding strike. We knew we had a shot on her, and she let it go then. America lead it by 2-0.
Well, I was just going to add as well, it allows both those players to cut inside and have a shot with their favored foot. Alex Morgan comes inside here, and a very speculative effort, but a very good strike. Hits it with that favored left foot, and the far post keeper doesn't have much of a chance on this one. Little bit off her line, and that nestles itself just under the crossbar, finding the top corner, and that's a great time to score for the United States right before the halftime whistle.
The stats tell it all. Alex Morgan now has 4 goals to her credit in this 6th match of the tournament. Well, we were talking a moment ago about the USA protecting that 1-goal lead going into halftime. Well, they've doubled it now. And they look as though they'll go to the break in a very comfortable position. Washington's back on this near side. Can the Koreans find an answer before half-time? Reid just put a foot in and made a bit of a meal, in my opinion, of the challenge, but
it's
won
not
the free kick.
It's not a foul. We have another look here at the strike from Alex Morgan. She just runs out of room and decides, I'm going to have a pop at this with my left foot. Buries in the top corner. Tony DeSico, very happy man.
I wonder whether it's got anything to do with the fact that the goalkeeper was off a line, as you mentioned, but the fact that Kim Eun-ju, the Korean goalkeeper, is, by my reckoning, only 5'5".
Well, it's generally a good idea to shoot for the top corner at all times. Doesn't matter how tall the goalkeeper is, but that's a very good strike from Alex Morgan, deserving the lead. United States 2-0 to the good, and you can't argue against that. They've been the better of the two teams, I think, in the opening 45 minutes, and they're full value for their 2-0 lead right now.
90 seconds to half-time. A lot of reorganisation for the defending champions to do at half-time, despite a bright start. Strong challenge on Edwards from Rhee. Doesn't warrant a lecture from the referee.
Just clumsy more than anything, just swinging for the ball. And she doesn't see Alex Morgan coming across there.
It is, in fact, a yellow card. I didn't see a chat. The referee decided one wasn't necessary, but Rhian Hwang, the North Korean central defender, is now under caution. As the Americans look for a third in the final minute of this first half. Nairn from distance, that'll be too high. Just 1 minute of added time at the end of this first half. Marshall and Klingenberg. Morgan, one of the goal scorers. The ricochet, which the North Koreans will look to benefit from. Goal kick is the verdict, despite the protests of the North Korean captain. A half in which the defending champions started the stronger, tested Nair on at least one occasion, but a half in which the USA grew in confidence, and out of nothing midway through that first half, Sydney Leroux, with a crisp strike, gave the US a foot up, and 3 minutes before the break, Alex Morgan cutting inside and unleashing an unstoppable left foot shot from distance, which gives the USA a 2-goal cushion at half-time as they look to reclaim the crown they last won in 2002. Half-time in the final in Santiago, 2-0. Brenda?
Well, Nigel, when we return, highlights and analysis of the first half, and we'll examine Canada's group stage departure from this tournament.